So will Virgin Galactic ever fly commercial passengers to the brink of outer space from Spaceport America right here in New Mexico?
Well, that is a question a lot of people are still asking this morning after one of the company's planes crashed in California on Friday. The National Transportation Safety Board says pilot error could have caused the crash that killed one pilot and badly hurt another. The NTSB says the plane's feathering system, which helps lift and rotate the tail of the aircraft, kicked in too soon, and that caused the plane to break up in the middle of the air. Well, the company has sold more than 700 tickets for the commercial flights that are set to take off from Spaceport America here near TRC. A state legislator who represents that area tells News 13 New Mexico should not give up on the space tourism industry just yet. Remember, the Roundhouse passed a bill in 2013 that helps cut down on liability for space industry companies, particularly when there is an accident, as a way to support Virgin Galactic. Well, the results are out on a year-long community discussion on the way the mentally ill are handled here in Albuquerque.
Yeah, more than 20 areas have been identified as priorities, some of which the recent DOJ agreement requires the city to do. Last year, the federal government asked city leaders to spearhead the meetings because of programs the city had already created to address mental health issues. Some programs, including the creation of a database listing mentally ill people police had previously dealt with. After some were shot by police, others had shot at officers. More than 400 people went to the meetings.
People wanting to come together, express themselves, and see what can we really do. I mean, for some real actions, not just talking.
Now, yesterday, the city's established teams were formed to help move some of those 22 ideas closer to reality. The city of Albuquerque and the feds reached an agreement when it comes to overhauling APD. The DOJ says the 106-page court-enforced agreement is a product of interviewing almost 700 people, taking in more than 1,000 emails, and talking to dozens of officers. The announcement of the agreement came on Friday.
We have reached a court-enforceable settlement agreement that will resolve this matter without the need for costly and protracted civil litigation.
Now, the agreement outlines APD's use of force policy, that officers need to give suspects time to submit to arrest before using force, and that APD will better train officers on the policy. The agreement is also the first in the country to require all officers to use on-body cameras and outlines punishments for those who do not. It covers how APD can better recruit and choose officers as well.
A part of the Department of Justice agreement includes dismantling one of APD's special investigation units called the Repeat Offender Project, or the ROPE team. News 13 interviewed APD records and interviews showing the team has been involved in a number of incidents that resulted in police shootings. One of the most controversial cases involves Officer Keith Sandy. He was captured on lapel cam video shooting James Boyd, a homeless camper in the foothills, back in March. The DOJ has said the team lacks organization and has a, quote, culture of aggression. We have also learned that there will now be an increased accountability for other specialized units, including the SWAT team. Those include defining the team's mission, screening candidates, documenting incidents, and reviewing deployments to make sure officers are all following procedures.
There are more traffic changes coming to an area that's already been getting a lot of attention in southwest Albuquerque.
Remember last week, parents and APS leaders met to go over changes the district would make to help traffic congestion and address safety near Atrisco Heritage Academy. But as News 13's Catherine Rizzone found out, a new school is set to open in less than a year, which can only mean more kids. Catherine is live out on 118th Street near Dennis Chavez, where the new school is going to be. So, Catherine, the big question this morning is what's going to happen with all this extra traffic?
Well, that's a good question, Matt. I'm standing at the 46-acre piece of land over here on 118th, and right next to me on my right, that's Atrisco Heritage Academy. So with all of this new traffic, it has APS officials planning ahead. APS broke ground on the property at the end of April this year. The district says the goal is to ease overcrowding for students that go to other elementary and middle schools in the area. But what about the traffic more students will bring? APS says it shouldn't be that bad, especially if students take buses. Plus, they say a 1-hour different start time between the K through 8th and Atrisco Heritage should help. Plus, the city is already planning changes to 98th Street. Starting in late spring, they'll widen it to create 2 lanes in both directions. APS hopes that will help the possibility of more traffic come the completion of the new school. But APS officials say there's even more work they're considering.
We do have additional roadways that are being constructed and additional egress and ingress points that are being addressed out there.
Now, APS planners say Hendrickson is referring to some work that they might do on the southeast side of Atrisco Heritage. Now, there's no decision on that quite yet, but officials say they'll monitor it and make a decision soon. Back to you.
All right, thank you for that information, Catherine. APS says some of the changes already in place from the Atrisco Heritage problems should also help. Those include a fence to separate pedestrians and traffic on the west side of Atrisco Heritage, a reduced speed limit on Dennis Chavez, and signs warning of traffic congestion. This week, they're set to add another left turn lane onto 118th from Dennis Chavez. Crystal?
Time now is 5:37. Albuquerque police are still looking for whoever shot a teen near Nob Hill this weekend. It happened Saturday on Carlisle near Lead Southeast. Albuquerque police say someone shot a 16-year-old boy in the stomach. He was rushed to the hospital and is expected to survive. Police say they don't know who the shooter is just yet. New this morning, we now know more about a Santa Fe man whose body was found in the Taos Gorge yesterday. State police say 46-year-old Tommy Sanchez's body was found by hikers Sunday morning. They say Sanchez may have committed suicide. That's still under investigation.
Environmental activists want the federal government to stop giving out oil and gas permits in northern New Mexico until an environmental study is done. The Farmington Daily Times reports the U.S. Bureau of Land Management plans to issue a formal response to a letter the environmental groups wrote. The groups say the, quote, rampant approval of drilling and fracking threatens wildlife, water, and air in the region. The government hasn't said when it will respond.